Hi, I'm George Pearson. In this Photoshop Elements video, I'll be showing you how to make one of these really long infographics and my process for doing this. Now, if you enjoy this video, make sure that you click that subscribe button and also, of course, click the like and share with your friends. If you want to find out a whole lot more about how to use Photoshop Elements, then you should take a look at my complete training courses, and you'll find links for that up there in the upper right-hand corner and, of course, on my channel. All right, let's get to it. When you're making an infographic inside of Photoshop Elements, there are a lot of things you need to get set up ahead of time. Obviously, the biggest one is what's the text? What is your infographic about? Now, the way I do that is I just write down a bunch of ideas, and in this case, I just did some funny names to name cats and why you don't want to name them that. Real basic stuff here just for this one video. When you're doing this, when you're making your text, be thinking about the images that you want to use with your infographic. You may want to be using photographs, you might want to be using actual cartoons or other kinds of graphics, whatever. So that's really up to you, kind of a design option. In this case, I went for photographs. Let's take a look at that quickly here. And I spaced those throughout. So I have one photograph here, then a few of the infographic sections, and then another photograph right there. So I did 5 sections and a photograph, 5 sections and another photograph, a couple of last sections down here, and a final finishing off photograph, and then just a little section at the very, very bottom, little credit section. After that, you'll want to think about the color scheme for your infographic, your background color, your main text color, little subcolors like we have over in here, and outlines and this. So for this, you'll want to decide upon a color theme. Okay, let's take a look and see how we can do all of that. Obviously, the first thing we've already mentioned is taking a look and thinking about how you want to word your infographic. That should be the first thing that you do. The next step is to just find some pictures. So what I do is I'll go over here to one of my favorite sites. This one is Pixabay, which gives a lot of free graphics, free images. You can choose from photos or vector graphics or illustrations or even videos in here. I'll choose photos. And what I just did a search here for funny cats. Just like that. Hit the enter key, and that brings up a search. Now this top little section up here, this is sponsored images from Shutterstock. These, of course, cost money. I go for the free images down here so that you can match what I'm doing without having to spend any money. There's one of the ones that I used, as a matter of fact, right there. So just scroll through, look for ones that you find funny. I use that one as well. Now I have links to these actual pictures on my materials page. You'll find a link for that in the description. Okay, next we want to decide upon a color theme. And what I'll do is I'll go over here to color.adobe.com. I have a video about how to use this that I did a while ago. I'll put a link for that video again in the description as well, so you can go ahead and find that link. Now in this one, this is all kind of fun to play with in here, but a real easy way to do is click on the Explore right there. Now you need to be logged in to do what I'll be showing you here. I'm logged in right there. This just requires your Adobe login, and if you have registered your software, you already have an Adobe login, so you're all set to go. Just go ahead and log into Adobe, and then you can access color.adobe.com and then download the color themes. Now on here, what you want to do is you want to look for an interesting color theme, but you want to have one that has distinct separations between the colors. These are all too close together in there, too much the same. In here, these right there, kind of hard to see that. There we go. Just below the arrow there, those are too close. These are okay. Now these are pretty good separation over in here, but they're all the same color, very, very monochromatic. If we scroll down, you'll find somewhere that are a little bit better. Nice separation down here on all of these. Good colors, that's a possibility right down there for a theme. And I'll just scroll down and I'll look for those kinds of themes where there are distinct 5 separate colors. And I can then use that as the basis for the theme. And just go ahead and scroll down until you find one that you like. Once you find a color theme that you like, just roll over here. There's Info, Edit, Copy, Download right there. There you go. Appreciate and Save. This allows you to save the color theme onto your computer. You can then import it right into Photoshop Elements. I normally just do a save on a few that I happen to like. You can then go up here to My Themes, and looking at the library, here are the ones that I've saved. I kind of like this one. That's kind of nice. I like that one in here. I like this one called Sun. This one I actually used. So it's simply save. Makes it easy to go ahead and refine that. You can then download that theme directly. Click on Download. Then navigate to where you want to have that saved. I have a folder here for Photoshop and then Color, and I save them right there. As it says sun.ase. That's the file type, ASE. I've already downloaded this one, so I won't bother saving that. That's all there is to it. Also, you can go ahead and download that from my materials page. You don't have to go through and find this one yourself. Okay, so that gets us all the pieces that we need. Once you have your pieces, you then can begin to build your infographic. Now, you won't know how long it should be yet when you first start out. We know the basic width. The basic width, there is no set specific size for that, but they're all around 600 to 700 pixels wide, somewhere in that range. This one's at 660 pixels wide. What I'll normally do is I'll do the width, and I'll do about twice that width for the height, and then just begin building, and then I'll stretch it as I need to as I go. So we can come in here, you can see how long this thing actually is. It's a very, very long infographic, and since I don't know how long it'll be because I'm putting in all these elements, I'll have to just keep on building or adding to the length until we finish it, and at that point I'll then crop off the bottom part that I don't need. All right, let's go ahead and start this project. File, New, Blank File. There we go. I'll leave this at a resolution of 300 to get real nice, crisp, clean graphics in here. I have my width set at 660, and I'm going to put the height at about double that, 1200. That's a good starting point. And then click on OK. Here's our basic beginning. Now at this point, let's just get the other parts of this set up. The first thing I want to do is to bring in my colors for this. So go up here to the window and come down to color swatches. There it is. There's our basic default color swatches. Now we can bring in those new swatches that were saved. Go up here to this little icon right there. Click on that. Brings out a little pop-up menu. Come down to Load Swatches right here. And make sure that down here where it says Swatches, make sure this is set to Swatch Exchange. And this shows you your ASE files. And there it is. There's the Sun ASE that we saved previously. Click on Load. It then loads those swatches in right here. There's those 5 colors that we just saved previously from the color.adobe.com website. So there we go. There's our basic colors. Okay, we now have our color set. We'll be using this quite a bit. Just kind of leave this floating up here for a while. The next thing we need to do is to put our basic text in here. Now I'll go over here. I'll use the black color. I'll just begin putting in my basic text. I'll start off with a real simple type style, and one I happen to use most of the time is Arial Black. Now I need to zoom in a bit. Just zoom in here. Let's just get the swatches over there somewhere. Find the top of our file. There it is. Go over to the Type tool, and I want to have the type centered on our center line. So let's find the center line. Just grab the left ruler here, drag that in, and it will automatically snap right to the center if you have snap-on. Let's double check that. View, snap to. Make sure those are all checked. They are, so we're fine. So it just snaps right to the center line. Okay, now we can begin to bring in our text. Just go over here someplace. I'll just type right there. Gives us an insertion point. Now we'll begin this first one here with fairly large type. I'll just set this at 36. It's a pretty good type size. And this will be the top 10. There we are. Triple click and set that for centered. Choose OK. We can now move this around, and you'll see little center marks right here. The top mark, those are the centers. So just move that so it snaps onto the center point. We can now just drag that up and down. It'll kind of stay snapped. You can pull it off, but it'll try to stay snapped to that center point. So there's our first bit of text right there. Let's go ahead and put in the rest of our text, our top section of text. The next one's a little +2 since I'm doing a top 10 +2. So back to the Type tool. I'll leave the Arial black the same on this, but make this type size a little bit smaller. Let's change this to 24 point. I'll leave it as centered. You can see how that happened. It came in and actually changed that. Let's just undo that. That sometimes will happen if you're trying to set on a new type line when you have an existing one up here already. The way to solve that is just to put a blank layer, a new layer above that, and then put your next type layer right there. So it just allows you to make a new type layer. I'll just click it in here and then change the typeface size. There it is. Now this is going to be the +2. Choose OK. Again, you can see there's the center. Snaps into place in the center, and I'll move that up into position. So kind of like that. That's fine. Come back on the top. We don't want to be messing this up again, so I'll just go ahead and make a new layer up here. Our next bit of text in here is names 2. Choose OK. Now I want this a little bit smaller. You can go larger or smaller on this. It's really up to you. That's actually not too bad. I'll leave it at that size. Let's now put our next text down here. I want this big and bold, but it'll be the same as that, same typeface. So again, I'll do a new layer here so I don't mess things up. And just click over here and I'll put in not all caps. Double click on that to select that and change the type size here to 36. Scroll down just a little bit and we'll get that centered so it snaps into place. And we'll put in our last bit of text. Again, I'll just do a new layer here so I don't get things messed up. And type 2, and I'll scroll down just a bit, just the wheel on my mouse right there. Click any old place in here, and Clear Cat, obviously too large, so triple click on that, and let's change that type size down. We'll come down to that 24 point, see how that works. Looks like that might fit. Okay, it's still too big. A little bit smaller on that. Let's try 18 point. And there we go. That's pretty good. Okay, so there's our first bit of text. I want to have this whole thing fitting well in the screen. So let's just squeeze things up just a bit. Now you can use the cursor keys on your keyboard if you want to, little arrow keys, and move things around like that with the arrow keys. So I'll go ahead and I'll smooth this up with the arrow keys here. It's a nice way to just kind of nudge these into position is to use those arrow keys. You can go pretty close on these for these infographics. You can really squeeze your text together much closer than you would normally think for most layouts. It seems to work well on infographics. Okay, so there is the top bit of text. Below that, we'll put our first cat picture, and we'll then start all the text sections down below there. So there's already the bottom, so I'll extend that a bit as we go here. Let's go ahead and finish this now. Let's now take a look at our color scheme on this and see how things look. So for the background, let's come down to the background. There it is. And look at our colors again. There's the basic theme. We'll use this as a starting point. I'll click on the blue. That's our background color. Grab the paint bucket and click in there. That just changes the background here to that blue. We'll use this yellow right here, kind of a sand color, for the top text. Go over here to the type tool, triple click, and then change that to that color. Choose OK. Just go ahead and just move on down all those 3 and change the color. The reason why I had these in their own separate lines is so I can move those spacing, kind of nudge them up and not get the spacing exactly where I want to have that. It's easier to do that instead of having them all in the same text box. It just makes things more difficult. So always nice having those separate. Okay, last one down here. And there we go. So there's the basic type for the top of the infographic. We can go a little fancier on this now by putting in a bit of a drop shadow in here. We can also change the typeface to a little fancier typeface. Let's do our drop shadow first. So these are all on separate layers over here. We're going to be using a lot of layers in this particular project. Tons and tons of layers. So if you're working in Photoshop Elements 15 or Photoshop Elements 2018, you can put your layers into groups, and we'll be doing that. Here's a little group icon right there. To put these into a group, just hold the Shift key down and select all the layers that you want to have in one group. Click on the group button and they'll go into a group. I'm just going to rename this top text. There we are. You can then expand or collapse that group. This is one of the nicest features that came in with Photoshop Elements 15, and one of the reasons why I say that's a great version to get if you don't have that, at least that version yet. There are other ways around this. We can colorize these layers, and you can use the colorization to help to separate your groups out if you don't have actual groups. The way you do that, just click on one of your layers, right-click on that layer, and down here you can choose a color for your layer. Let's just go ahead and make this one orange. There it is. I'll just use the Shift click here to select all of these, right-click, make them all orange. So then they're all tagged the same color, and that again can make it a bit easier for us to differentiate the different groups that we're working with. One more thing you can do is you can squeeze these layers down a bit so they're not quite as wide, and that will let you see more layers inside of the area over here. Click on that icon right there, and that brings up the options. Come down here to Panel Options, very bottom. And here are the different sizes for your thumbnails. This is your thumbnail, and we're looking at this size right now. I'll click on the next one down, which is a real small thumbnail. Choose OK. It just kind of squeezes those layers up a little bit and gives us more space in here to view more layers at one time. So there you go, a few things you can do to make it a little bit easier to work on this project. Okay, back to our one last thing in here. Notice how the layers kind of came in upside down. I like having my layers in the same sequence that things are happening over here in my graphic. So I'll just rearrange this. Grab this layer, drag it up to the top, like that. Grab +2. Notice that kind of black line in there, that heavy line, that shows you where it'll be moving to. So we can just grab these, kind of reposition them. So there we go. They're now in the same order that they are on the page. Go to the top one here, up to Layer, come down to Layer Style, Style Settings, do a drop shadow, and in here, the opacity 35, this is the default setting. Distance default is 3. I'm going to set this one distance at 10, which I thought looked nice. And then the size is 7. This is how soft the edge is. I wanted a harder edge than that, so I'll make my size 3. It's a little harder edge. And then change the lighting angle over to here somewhere, upper left-hand corner. I tend to like using 136 for no real particular reason, but it's got upper left-hand corner. And choose OK. So there's a nice little drop shadow on that. Already the type looks better just by adding that drop shadow. We can now copy that. Right-click, come down to Copy Layer Style. Click on your next layer. Hold the Shift key down. Click on the bottom text layer. Right-click, and then Paste Layer Style right there. And it copies that layer style to all of those layers. So there we are. We now have our nice drop shadow. Okay, last thing to do is just to decide on a different typeface. Now to do this, I'm going to put this over here. It's just this way out of our way temporarily. I'm going to move this clear over here to the right-hand side like that. That little scroll bar there. Clear the right-hand side. Let's choose OK just to set that in place. There we are. Type tool. Triple click. Go over here, and the reason why I moved that to the right-hand side is so I can see my type here on the left-hand side and see how it looks over here on the right as I scroll through these. You can see, actually get a little preview over there. Then just scroll down until you find one that you like. Now, the one I used was Broadway, which is down just a little bit down here. And there we go. Broadway BT Regular is one that I used. Choose OK. And there's our typeface. I need to do this separately for each one of these. It'll go pretty fast. Triple click. Back over here. Now once you have done one, you'll find that the typeface you use is at the top of the list, making it easier to find. Choose OK. Back to our type. Let's go through and catch all of these quickly. Again, scroll back to the top. There it is. And back to our type tool. 1, 2, 3. Sometimes 1, 2 works. There we go. Choose OK. And our last bit of text. There we are. And scroll to the top. So there we are. There is the text taken care of. We now have our nice text design. Okay, that part is done. Let's now come down here and we'll put in our first cat right in this section in here. The first step for the cat picture is to choose and decide how big we want to have that circle. So I'll go over here to the shapes, click on the ellipse shape, set that for circle, and from center, so come right down about the center in here. Our center line, click and drag out, and I want the cat image to be about that big. I want a nice amount of space around the edges on that cat. So that's the right size for the cat. Let's now bring our cat picture in. Go up here to File and Place. Now I have links for these cats again on that materials page. You can go ahead and find those links and download those yourself. There's our first image. Choose Place. The reason I use Place is because it brings it in and fits the width to the width of the image that we're working with. Now it's a little bit too small, as you can see here, so I'm going to put it down to the bottom, grab the upper right hand corner and just drag that up until it's the right size. There we are. Now I can't quite see my circle to position this, so let's just get these out of the way. I'll put those right there right now. There's our cat picture. Let's change the opacity to about halfway down. Now I want to get the animal position correct first. Notice how I came in inside of our group. See this in between the text layers. If I collapse the group, there it is inside of that group. I want it out of the group. So let's grab that layer, pull it up above the group up there. You see that kind of double line right there, right at the very top. There it is. Let go there, it pulls it out of the group. Let's grab the shape, pull the shape just below this, but above that. Again, look for that dark line. There it is. They're both now out of the group, so I can collapse the group. Now I want the group above the shapes. We'll be doing this a few times throughout this training here to organize things. Just grab the group, pull the group back to the top, like that. So there we are. There's our top group, text group, and then here's the animals just down below that. Okay, here we are. There's the animal. I can now just use the cursor keys on the keyboard and get the cat moved around so it looks nice inside of that circle. Kind of like right there. That's pretty good. Okay, there's our basic cat position. Set the opacity back up to the top. Looks nice. At this point, if you want to do any adjustments on your cat picture, this is the time to do it. I think this looks pretty good, but you may want to do an adjustment. Now I want to put this inside of that circle. To do that, we'll be doing a layer mask. So let's hide that for a second. Come down to our shape one layer. Hold the control key down and click on the icon here for the layer. That selects that layer. Let's now show the cat again. Come back to the cat layer and click on this button right here. This is the Add Layer Mask. It makes a layer mask that matches that circle, and there we go. There's our cat inside of that layer mask. Let's now put a stroke or a line around the outside of this cat. And for that, we'll be doing a layer style. Let's go back here to the cat side of this layer. It doesn't really matter. We'll go to the cat side of the layer. Look for that light blue outline. Go up to Layer, come down to Layer Style, Style Settings, and we'll do a stroke. See, there it is. Make sure that is set for outside and change the stroke to a 9. And we then want to use one of our swatches. We want to use this swatch color right there. So click on the swatch in here, and this actually gives you an eyedropper. You see there's a little eyedropper tool. You can then come down to our swatches and click on that swatch, and it sets that color at that swatch setting. Then just choose OK and OK. Okay, at this point, we're getting close to the bottom. You can see right there, right down at the bottom of this. We need to expand our background, expand the canvas to give us more space to work. I'm just going to put this over here to get out of the way. So go up to the Image menu, come down to Resize and Canvas Size. Set the inches at pixels, and where it says Anchor, click on the top arrow right there so it looks like this. A dot there and everything else. It means that if we make any changes here, we'll change it down and left and right. We want to be changing down. Canvas extension color set to the background color, or we can click on Other And again, there's our eyedropper tool. Let's click on the background in here. That will then match this background color as we bring that down. Or you can choose that right here from the swatch set. Just match that color from the swatch set. Choose OK. So we've got matching background color. Let's just set this at 3 times this, which would be 3600. That'll give us some more space to work with for a while. There we go. It extends that out. OK. There's the background. I can now scroll down. We have a lot more space to work with. Now in here, notice that our cat is just below that, about this much space, just below, kind of visually the same thing below that is right about like that. So I'll grab the top ruler up here and pull this down. Gives me a guideline. I'll put the guideline right at that bottom position. Just about there. That's the start of our graphics stuff. Now in the graphics, I want to have the graphics themselves set at 1.5 inches tall. So we need spaces every 1.5 inches. To do that, I need to be having my 0 point set at this line. So we're now going to be able to actually do some measurement in here. Go up here, upper left-hand corner of the rulers, right there, kind of a little gray square. Pull that out. You get this crosshair. Just put that right on that line right there. Now the 0 point is set to match that grid line. We can then come in and grab a new line here, top ruler, drag it down to the 1.5 inch position. Doesn't need to be exact, but about that. There we go. And then just keep on doing this down for a few. So there's 1.5. Next one will be at 3. Just pull that down again right about at 3. It does need to be perfect on this. Come down to 4.5. And then 6 is our next one right down there. Just put a few of these in. 7.5 is the next one. Probably good enough for right now. So there's a few spots. We'll be doing an infographic section in each one of these sections. Let's now set up our first section in here. Now I want to have this down below the animal and our shape. We can actually hide that shape now we're done with that. So come down to the background, and at this point we'll be putting in a new shape in here. Now for our shape, I'll be using this orange color in here. Let's bring the infographic back up again. You can see as I scroll down, there's that nice bright orange color. We're using that bright orange color. We'll start off with a basic shape. Go to our shapes, grab the rectangle, click on the foreground color, and using the eyedropper tool, go over here and click on that orange. That then sets this at the orange. Choose OK. There's our orange color right there. And then come right to the top line, just right at the edge. You can be outside just a little bit if you want to. That's fine. Click and drag a rectangle down to that line so we have this nice orange rectangle right in that position. And then go ahead and set that in place. We now need to shrink down this side and expand that side to give us that wedge shape. And that's up here, Image, Transform Shape, and Perspective. Grab the top corner here, just pull that straight down. And if you look over there on the ruler, you see a little line moving up and down there. Bring it down so it's right about at 1/4 inch. And let go right there. On the right-hand side, pull this up and watch that center point. When that center point hits that cross here right there, and that's at the right spot. Just pull that up until that center point is right there. And there's our basic wedge shape. And choose OK. Now it's going to ask you to turn it into a regular shape instead of a smart object. That's fine. Choose yes. And there's our basic wedge shape. Now we'll be doing one of these and then a background section and then another one of those and then a background section and another one of those. Just kind of alternating back and forth between those. So these will be in their own groups. This is going to be our first infographic section. That'll be group 1. So let's go ahead and put this into a group. Go up here to New Group. There's our group. Drag that up into that group just like that. There's that little indents a little bit there. So this is now inside of group 1. Double click on this. You can name this if you want to. At this point, to change your name. I'll leave this at group 1 since that's the right name for that. And this is our wedge. Double click here and Just name that wedge. Okay, we're all set. Once we put in our basic text and other objects in here, they will all be inside that one group. We can then simply make a duplicate of the group and add in our additional group. So all the work is really going to be done right in here. Everything else will just be copy, paste, or duplicate and then change the text. So this would be, most of the rest of the work is just this one little section. Come back up here to the wedge layer, and the next thing is a circle right in here. That's our number circle. For the number circle, we'll be using our light color again right there. Let's click on that. Puts our light color in. Let's go back to our shapes and change this back to a circle. We're still doing it from center. Come up in here someplace, about right there. Just click and drag out, make a nice circle shape. About that size, looks pretty good. There it is. We need to change the color of this, of course. So we have our foreground color set. Grab the paint bucket tool and just click inside that to colorize that. Let's now put the same outline that we have up there on the cat on this one. That's easy to do. Just go up here to the cat layer, right click, and copy layer style. Come down here, this shape too. This is the circle. I'll just rename this. There it is. Right click and then paste layer style. So that now matches that exactly. Okay, our style is in place. Let's put our number on this one. That's our text in here. For the number, I want to be using that dark blue color, that color right there. It's our text color. Let's change the typeface over here to Arial Black. I'll just scroll up again near the top of the list. There it is. Make our size a bit larger, 24 point. Now at this point, notice how the shape here of my cursor changes, goes to a little circle. I don't want to be clicking in this because it will then put that number inside of the shape at the top of the shape, causing us all kinds of problems. So go over here, make a new layer above that circle layer, and then click out here someplace. That puts the insertion point on its own layer. Type in 1 and choose OK. And then just using the cursor keys, those arrow keys on your keyboard, let's just move this 1 over here. Now I need to have this fit my larger numbers. So back to the type tool, I'm going to put a 0 after this, make it 10. And then using those cursor keys again, let's just tap that into place. Just like that. Now I can go a little bit larger on this, it looks like. So let's go up a little higher. Type tool, double click. And let's just set this. Let's try 30 and see how that does. That's getting pretty large, but I think that will fit. There we go. Again, using the arrow keys on the keyboard to get that visually centered. So the size is good. I can now get rid of that 0. Let's just backspace that to just the 1. Again, use those cursor keys, those arrow keys to get that visually centered. And there's our number. Next, I want to have my quote box up here, and that is done with a shape tool. Again, here's our shapes. Click on this shape right here, a custom shape button, and in this, let's change the category here and come down to talk bubbles right there. And let's grab that talk bubble. I can then drag that in, make a nice little bubble shape. I'll make it about that size. There's the shape. Now it's underneath the wedge, so I'm going to take this and drag that above the wedge. I'll go above the circle as well. There we are. Now you can grab the move tool here and actually resize this. We'll be doing some resizing throughout this video, so I'll make it a little bit larger in here. I want it with this little point there on the other side. So let's go ahead and flip this. And that's image, rotate, and flip layer horizontal. There we go, and choose OK. So there's our basic talk bubble. To position that exactly, again, just use the arrow keys on the keyboard and just kind of put that somewhere where it's nice. Now for this, I'm going to be putting a light blue inside here and then a light orange for the ones over the blue. So kind of reversing our colors on that. So let's find a nice light blue. I'll first start with my default blue down here. Just use that paint bucket and click that in. There's the default. Let's now find a lighter blue to use instead. Here's kind of a nice one here, pure cyan. Here's a light cyan. Let me try that one. That looks nice. Just a little light cyan. I'm just kind of staying in the same family here as our basic one. But I also want to have a stroke around this, the same stroke that's around that. So let's come down to the circle, right click, copy layer style. Here's our shape. This is just the talk bubble. Double click here, talk bubble, right click, paste layer style, and there's that outline. I can again use the cursor keys to position that a little bit better in the window. There we go. Okay, that looks good. We can now begin putting our text in place on this. I can actually get this out of the way for the time being, put that right down there. And we'll want the text, I'll come up here to our type layer, we'll put our text above that layer. So we'll start off with our first bit of text, and for that, let's go back to our list in here. The first one is just help. So I'll just type this in, and I have what's in the talk bubble kind of right there on that. So back to our type tool. Now for the text in here, for the talk bubble, I'll be using that dark blue like we did before. It's right here still. And I'll be keeping this at the Arial black. For the type over here, for the heading, for the actual name, we'll be using this in our Broadway, and then the text down below in an Arial again. Same thing, so don't mess things up. Just put in a new layer and click right here. Let's just put this all caps and some exclamation points. Let's resize this smaller so it will fit properly. Let's try 18. Looks pretty good. Choose OK. Using the cursor keys again, let's go ahead and nudge that into place. And the reason why I'm using the cursor keys all the time is that if you try moving this by grabbing it and pulling it, you'll pull everything that's inside that group, so that really won't work. Okay, text is too large. Let's just make this smaller again. Let's try 14 point. I think that's better. Again, the cursor keys, about the right size, but the box, the talk bubble is too small. So there's our type. Let's come down to the talk bubble, grab that right side, and just pull that over a little bit so it's a nice fit. There we go. And then again, using the cursor keys, we can just kind of position that help just a little bit better. There it is. All right, next piece is the help right here. Go back above this help, new layer, type tool. Let's change this over to black. And that's right there. It's a pure black. I want to have this one in that Broadway again. So here's our Broadway regular right there. And back to our type tool. It's over here someplace. And this can just be upper and lowercase. That's fine. Let's now adjust the size of this. I want it a bit larger than that. Let's try the 18 again. That looks pretty good. And let's move that to the right just a little bit and down just a bit. So it's about in here. It's kind of against the top part of the circle in there, maybe a little bit higher on that. Okay, let's now put a new layer above this one. New text layer. Back to the type tool. This will be Arial again. But this time I want to be using an Arial italic right there. And then click over here someplace. And for that, that is the next bit of text. Now this I want to have in a text box actually instead of in just an insertion point. So we'll do it a little bit differently this time. Let's just cancel that. Type tool. Here's our new layer still. So over here, click and drag, and notice that makes a box right there. This is a type box. Set the justification to the left side. We now can put our text right inside here. Let's change the point size down pretty small. Do a 10 to begin with. And I'll bring back up my file. And there's the text that I want. Just select that, copy. This is just Notepad inside of Microsoft and then right click, paste, and there we go. Now the nice thing about a text box is I can change the text box like this, and the text automatically reflows to fit into the box. It gives us some easy adjustability in here. Now for the position on this, just use your cursor keys and just put it kind of centered in this area right down here. That's fine. That's all we need. All right, there we go. There is the first one, and that also sets in all of our positions for all of our text. It's now easy to do all the rest of the sections just based on this one piece. This is the template for everything else. I'm not really happy with that talk bubble, so let's go ahead and change this to a different talk bubble. Come down here right above that talk bubble, and let's just see what else we have here. Let's try this one this time. And I'll put that right here, about the same size. Notice how it copies the same coloration as the last one, which makes it real easy. And I think that looks fine. We can then move that into place using the cursor keys. Now it's down underneath the text lines, so it's going to be showing the text just fine. So about right there. It's a little wide. I'll just adjust that position here just a touch. That's better. Let's go ahead and flip this, but first I'll hide that other talk bubble. There we go. Just get rid of that one. I should just delete that layer. We no longer need that. There we are. Let's just rename this one talk bubble, and I'll flip that around. I'd like to have this over here on the left-hand side. So image, transform shape, rotate, flip layer horizontal. There it is. And again, cursor keys just a bit to get the position exactly right. I'm going to go up just a bit more than before. I wanted a little bit of space right in there. And let's raise the type a little bit again, the cursor keys, just to fit. Okay, I think that looks good now. Everything is nicely laid out. I think we're all set to go. At this point, then, this becomes the template for everything else. It's all based on just this one. It's simply a matter of copying and duplicating and then simply changing the text. Now, to do this properly, we want to be using the shape and just walk it down one group at a time. So if you have these set in groups, again, if you're in Photoshop Elements 15 or 2018, you can do this as groups. Makes it real easy. If not, you'll have to be selecting all of your layers and then copying the whole set and then recoloring that whole set on the copy. So see how that's done. I'll come down here to group 1. Here is our group 1. If I wanted to copy the whole thing, just click on your top layer, hold the shift key down, click on the bottom layer in there, then right click and duplicate layers. And see here they all say copy after them. So it's now copies of everything down there. You can then come in and colorize those a different color. Same thing, right click and then choose a new color for the front. You can do it that way. Let's just undo those two steps, undo color change and undo duplicate layer. If you're using a group, it's even easier. Just take your group, drag it up to the new layer button like that. There's your group copy. We can now take this whole thing and pull a whole copy down just like that. Just drag the whole thing down and again align it so that the crossover point at the top and the bottom meet, and the center point right here is on that center line. I'll just use the cursor keys again to tap this into position right about here and up a little bit right there. So that's going to be group 2. So I'll just double click here. Let's rename this group 2. Take this group and drag it down underneath group 1. So our position is fine. There's group 2. And let's just hide that wedge. There we are. So that's group 2. Then it's just a matter of coming in and changing the type. Just double click on each of your type and change it. Change our position just a little bit. Back to our type tool. This one is fire. There we go. And then type tool again. Just like that. And I'll bring back up my text. And here is the text for the fire section right there. Select that, copy, back to the type tool, 4 clicks in there to select the whole paragraph, and then right click and paste. Changes the text, choose OK. That's now done. See how fast it is to make these copies once you have the first one set up. Let's just do one more of these, and then I'll pause the video and fill in some more stuff down below and then bring it back up again. Okay, for the next section down here, section 3, take group 2, drag it up here, makes a copy. Let's show that wedge again. There it is. We're still in the group 2 copy. It's on top of group 1, so I can just, or group 2 rather, I can just grab this and drag it down. Same thing, drag it down until it is crossing that point at the top and the bottom, and the center point is positioned properly. Use your cursor keys to move it if you need to. And that one's going to be group 3. Double click over here, change the group name to 3. Drag it down below group 2 so that it's in the right sequence, and then change the text as we just did over there on group 2. So there it is. That's the process. So it's a matter of just walking down to put in your additional groups. Now I'll do group 4 and group 5 off camera. We'll come back up in just a second. Okay, so here's the first 5 sections all taken care of. At this point, we obviously need to have more stuff down below, but there's one more little touch up here I want to take care of, and that is on these blue on blue sections. I want to have the color for these talk bubbles a orange, a lighter orange than that orange. So let's go up here to the top one, right there where it says fire, and bring our swatches back up again. Let's first fill this with the default orange color right there, paint bucket, and just click inside. Let me just make sure I'm on the right spot here. And that is the talk bubble. That is group 2. And that one right there. There we are. So there's our basic background colors. Now find one that's lighter than that. I'll try this one up here. Looks a little dull. Actually, let's try this one. Might be better. See how that works. Maybe a bit darker. Not really happy with that. That's better. So right there again, staying in the same kind of family as these colors, but just brightening it up a little bit. That takes care of that. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the same thing down here. This is in group 4. So I'll close down group 2, come down to group 4, come down to the talk bubble, and then fill that as well. Okay, that takes care of the top section. We have 2 sections with 5 in them, and we finish off with 1 section with just 2 in it, down towards the bottom. But we need to stretch this down. So this is a little more than 1/3 of the overall project at this point. We know it's going to be another 5, another 2 pictures, and another 2 down at the bottom. So I can just make the whole thing 3 times as large, and that will then get us pretty close to the correct length for the whole infographic. So go up to the image menu, come down to resize, canvas size, change your settings back to pixels again, go to the top up here, and I'll make this 3 times as large as that, or 10,800. Be just about right. Choose OK. And that stretches that way down and gives us all the space that we need to go in and put in the rest of the infographic, plus a little bit of extra we'll cut off at the very bottom. Now, we've been putting these sections in here at a spacing of 1.5 inches. I'll put in a spacing down here at 2 inches for the picture, for the cat picture, the next cat picture. So we're at 7.5, 8.5, and 9.5 will be the next guideline. That's 2 inches in there for a spot for the cat picture. And then at that point, we're back to the 1.5 inches. So that comes down to 11 right there. That'll be for section 6 or group 6. And then 12.5 is group 7. And 14, another 1.5 inches down. And next one will be down at 15.5. That's section 9. This one will be section 10, and that's going to be at the 17 mark, about there. So that's 10. So down here will be our next cat pictures. That'll be 2 inches. Down here at 19, right there. And then another section here. This would be number 11. That's going to be 20.5. And one more down here. This will be at 22. Again, 1.5 inches. Right there. And the last cat picture down here and the finished stuff. So this cat picture here will be a 2-inch section. That's 24 right there. And leave about 2 inches for the final section, be at 26 approximately. We'll adjust that as we get down to that point. Okay, so that's basically set. We might want to move those around a little bit. We'll see as we put in our section. So we've stretched it out now. I'll put in this one cat picture right now on camera, and then I'll pause the video and I'll put in the next 5 sections, same as you've already done up there. But for this cat picture, what you want to do is you want to scroll back up to the first cat picture. There it is. And then over here, that's going to be the cat picture right there. Behind the cat picture is that shape. There it is. You want to take the shape and then just drag the shape down to where we need it. Get it out of the way. I'll bring that cat picture back up again. There it is. Okay, back to our shape. And just drag that on down. Notice how it auto scrolls for you. So there's the shape. There is our 2-inch section right there. So you then position this shape at that point. We can now bring in our next cat picture. Now I want to have this down below group 5. So let's take the shape here. We've already dragged the position over here, but I'll just pull a layer down underneath group 5. Cat picture will be in the right spot in my stack over here on the right hand side. Okay, let's place our next picture. File the cat photos. There we go. And this one, I'll grab this cat right there. She's placed. Again, it's a little too small. So grabbing the upper corner, just pull it down just a bit. There we are, and that upper right hand corner, and I'll drag it up till it's large enough to fit. That looks good. Change the opacity down a little bit, and actually it fits just fine there, so I leave that as is. Take a look at the exposure on this one. Enhance, adjust lighting, shadow highlights, and that's pretty good. I think I'll bring the shadows down just a little bit, so just a little touch up in there, make it look a little bit nicer, and I think that's good right there. And then once again, there's the shape. So hold the control key down, click on the icon for the shape. That selects that shape. Go back up to the cat layer, and then click on the layer mask. Puts the cat inside of that circle. Come back up here to this layer. This is the top cat. Right click, copy layer style. Come down to this cat layer here. Right click and paste layer style, and that puts in that stroke for us. So there we go. There's the next cat picture. Now the next 5 of the sections, the wedge sections, that's exactly the same thing we've done before. I'll just copy this and move it down here for 6, copy that, move it down here for 7, and remove the wedge. Copy that, move it down here for number 8, put the wedge back in, and so forth on down. So I'll pause the video at that point and put in the next 5 sections. I'll bring the video back up again when we're down to the next cat picture. Alright, there's the next 5 sections that I've put in. Same trick as before, same exact things before. And below there, here's our next 2-inch section right there. That's where the next cat picture goes. And then below that next cat picture, exactly the same thing as we did for that previous cat picture. Same exact trick as we did. Same trick as we did here with this cat picture. And then after that cat picture is in place right there for the next cat picture, there will be 2 more of those wedge sections right here and right down here. So I'll go ahead and I'll get those 2 done and then bring the video back up to finish off the bottom section and to trim the overall infographic to size. Okay, there's the picture right there. There's part 10, there's the picture. There's the next 2 sections, and the next picture goes right here. Now notice we ended this time on a blue. We've always been ending on orange before. We've ended on a blue here, so we need orange at this point, but it's a 2-inch tall section. Let me show you how you take care of that little issue. I'm just going to take the group 11 here, which is the previous orange section. Let's make a copy of that. There we go. And I'll just call this one Bottom Kitty. And that'll be sitting up on top right here. There it is. So drag that down. And just like before, I'll use the cursor keys, the arrow keys here to get this positioned properly. There it is. And then we'll take this layer and pull it down underneath that group 12 so it's in the right spot on my stack as well. Let's open this up now. Now I don't need any of this stuff. All I need is that wedge down there. So I'm going to click on the top text, come down to circle, just select all of those with the shift key and hit the trash can and just delete all of those. Take the wedge layer, drag that up here to the new layer button, and it gives me a copy of the wedge. There's my 2-inch line. I'll just now use the cursor keys and let's just move it over a little bit. There we go, so they're matching. And then using the cursor keys, I'll just run that down until it crosses that point there at the 2-inch line. There it is. Click outside, and that gives me a nice large section now. And I'll put the next kitty picture right inside of this section. Now it leaves me a 2-inch section down below here for any kind of ending credits or whatever else you want to have down your logo. Anything you want down there, just kind of finish off your infographic, goes into that bottom section. And that then finishes off the whole infographic. Now we're stuck with some stuff down here we don't need, extra stuff down here. So to take care of that, I need to know exactly what point this line is. Now keep in mind where it says 26 over here. This is measured from the top of the wedge sections. We set our 0 point right here earlier on at that point. What I need is the 0 point up at the top of the whole thing. That's easy to do. Just go up here to the little gray rectangle again, right up there. Double click on that. That resets the 0 point to the top corner of the overall project. I can now scroll back down to that bottom section. Here we are. Just scroll all the way down. There's my bottom 2-inch mark, and that's just past the 30-inch mark right there. So if I cut this off at 30 inches, that will then be the right length to finish off this infographic. To do that, go up to Image, come down to Resize, Canvas Size once again. Click that at the top center position again and change the height to 30 inches. That will then trim off everything below that 30-inch point. Choose OK. There it goes. It does trim that off right now, or down to that 30-inch point, and that finishes off that infographic. So there we go. I just need to put that last picture in here, the last cat picture right there, and then whatever finishing off text you want to have for the bottom of your infographic, and you're all set to go. And there's the final cat picture. Again, same technique as the other cat pictures, just placed in that new orange area. And then down below here, I put in just a couple of things. Just a little credit and a little logo to fill in that bottom section. So that finishes off the infographic. I did one more change in here, and that's that I changed the type in here on the blue section to white. Let me show you how that was done. I left one here undone. I'll just scroll back up again, and that's right here. Simple to do this, just go to the Type tool, double click on your type, and then change the color down here in the options. Do the same thing for the paragraph. and change that to white as well. And there we go. And that finishes off this whole infographic. Now at this point, one last thing to do, of course, is to get this set up to be used on a website. And you can do that by doing a save file as, save it for web. There's the very top of that. So file. I'll first save this. I've already saved it to a specific name here, infographic cat names. And then come down to save for web right there. Now because it's a solid graphic, lots of big solid colors as you can see in here, you get the smallest file size by using the GIF format. And that's right there. I have mine set for 256 colors, which is fine. I could probably get away with 128, make it even smaller, but not by a whole lot, so I'll just leave that at the highest setting in here. Now if I went for a JPEG setting, to click a JPEG, you'll see how the size goes way up to 2.5 meg instead of the much smaller 677.4K. So much smaller using the GIF. That's because of all those real large block areas of color in here. Okay, once that's done, just go ahead and click on save, and you can then use that on any site that will accept these kind of long graphics, either on the website or possibly over on Pinterest, anything like that. So let's go ahead and do our save. I'm already in the right location for that. If not, you can just navigate to where you want it saved, choose save, and once that's out of the way, we'll be all set. And there you go. So that's all there is. Of course, obviously it's a big project doing something like this, and it requires a lot of organization, especially over here on the layers with all of those different layers to work with. That's the real key, is your organization when doing one of these real long graphics. The actual techniques used are very simple, very straightforward, but organization is the key. So there you go. That is how to do an infographic, one of these long scrolling infographics inside of Photoshop Elements. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it useful. If you like this video, click on the like button below to let others know. You can click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos in the future. I'm frequently uploading new training videos. Don't forget to check out my website at howtogurus.com.